G'day and welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. I hope you are doing well. For those of you who don't know me, and there is a possibility that you don't. My name is Dr. Dan and I'm a contemporary singing voice specialist. And we're going to do a Q&A today. We regularly hang out here 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time every Monday. And we do a variety of things during the live show. Today we're doing a Q&A, question and answer. You ask the questions. I do my best, my humble best, to provide the answers. And I just want to let you, as people sort of start to chime in, we've got a few new people. I'm just seeing Martian Murray. Hello, Martian Murray. Welcome to the show. You're a name I'm not familiar with, so it's good to have new people joining us. And before I forget, because I do like to acknowledge all of you who either watch or listen to the show as a replay, which are the vast majority of you. This show typically within the week receives around about 500 views or listens, and it's always wonderful to know that you keep chiming in, and thank you for your support. And I hope that for the rest of this year and into the new year that we can continue to provide you with really positive content that you can learn from, that you can engage with. What I try to do here at Voice Essentials is get past the superficial sort of upper layers of singing. And when I talk about that, we do try to get down into the nitty gritty, some of the more harder to understand topics. And last week we had Zach Bradford. We have guests on the show on a regular basis. And last week we had Zach Bradford from New York Voice Australia. Anyway, he's a very good friend of mine, and he's actually, just so turns out, he lives in the same city as I do here in Brisbane, Australia. And despite the fact that his business is called New York Voice. And anyway, he was talking to us about resonance and the effect of acoustics on the voice and how that implicates itself on a whole range of things. I'd encourage you to have a check out of that show if you missed it last week. And then we also do Q&As like today, and then we do mini topics. We're going to do another mini topic next week. It'll be a mini topic plus a Q&A. I've already got the mini topic in mind. I'm going to keep it a secret. You're going to have to tune in next week. And the way to be reminded of the show going live every week is when you subscribe, when you hit the white bell icon after you've subscribed. That way you'll get a notification that comes out every Monday at around about, the notifications go out at around about 5 minutes to the hour at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And that way you don't miss a show. And that is also what you need to do to leave a comment. And the comments today are going to be moderated by the wonderful Kathy Snyder. And I want to say a very special hello to Kathy. So normally, as you would know, Linda, the amazing Linda, every week she chimes in and she does our moderation of the live show. But this week, Linda has got a family commitment that she needed to get to. Family comes first. And so she's off doing that. And so we have deputized Kathy to join us. Kathy, so Linda is in, excuse me, that'll be my lunch. Linda is in Hobart, Australia, which is around about, Hobart is in the, for those of you who don't know Australia very well, Hobart is on the island part, right down the bottom right-hand side when you're looking at the continent of Australia. It's right down the bottom in a place called Tasmania, that sort of island off the bottom. And so Hobart is the capital of Tasmania. That's where Linda is. Kathy is all the way. Oh, is it almost the opposite side of the planet, Kathy? Is in Canada. And I'm trying to, Kathy, maybe you can let us know where in Canada you are. But Kathy is a really important part of the Voice Essentials family, and is such a strong contributor, not only here as a part of the live show, but also as a part of the Voice Essentials Facebook community group. And if you're not a part of that, you should be. We have such a good time over there. I'm not the dominant voice on the channel, on the Facebook group community page. It's ones like Kathy and there's so many different people that are really quite active in that community page. And so Kathy, if you're already a part of that group, you know Kathy, you know her well. So Kathy is keeping the community nice and safe in the live chat today. And Kathy is 3 hours drive from Toronto. Right. Kathy, does that put you out in the sticks? That's I don't know whether that's an Aussie colloquialism. We would call it as living out in the sticks, if you were out in sort of a regional area, not in the metropolitan. Does that cause you to be out in the sticks? Martian Murray is in Texas, also on the opposite side. That's true. Now, the way we do a Q&A today, I want to quickly talk about the reaction videos in a moment. But the way we're going to do the Q&A, the only way we can do Q&A is if you leave your questions in the live chat. And so what we do is you've got to subscribe to leave a live question, and then you can leave a question in the chat. I grab the question, hopefully, and then so hopefully see it, and then we throw the question up, and I do my best to answer it. So you can already guess this will be a pretty short show if I have no questions to answer. And so I'm very much looking forward to your questions being provided so that we can dive in there. I'm just seeing here. So in one sense, so normally what would happen, Linda would grab the questions and put them into a live Google Doc. We're kind of going a little bit old school today, where I'm going to have to identify the questions on the fly. But I think we'll make do. There is no substitute for, the way we've learnt to do it over these many years. Every now and then we have to go kind of old school, but that's fine. So here we go. So Kathy's in a smaller city, not quite the sticks. Okay, very good. I grew up in regional New South Wales, so like I was saying, with where Hobart is, I don't think I stopped telling you where Hobart is, where Linda lives. She's like, it'd have to be at least 3 maybe 4,000 kilometers south of where I am. That's how far away Linda lives from me. She's by no means, like Zach from last week's hangout, and he lives across the river. It would only be at the most a 30-minute drive. For me to get to Linda, well, it's probably a good 4.5 to 5 hour flight. So that's how far Linda is from me. And a happy Thanksgiving to all Canadians. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving here in Australia, and it's I've often thought of all the holidays that have been exported from North America. It's interesting. Probably one of the most positive ones is Thanksgiving. That idea of being thankful. I hope I'm not misreading the intent of the holiday. The idea to be thankful and to celebrate that thankfulness, I think is a pretty wonderful thing. And yet we don't celebrate Thanksgiving here in Australia. But good to know that in Canada currently you're celebrating that. So for what it's worth, from an Aussie to our fellow Canadians, happy Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving to you, Kathy, which makes it all the more special, Kathy, that you've put your hand up to moderate today's live chat. So thank you very much. We, as a community, are thankful to you, so thank you. Let's jump over here. I can see a question. Martian Murray, thank you for asking a question. I was starting to be concerned that we could have a very, 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 very short show today. Let's answer Martian's question. We'll answer that question first, and then we'll come over. Let me just make sure I'm not going to get this. I'm going to get this right here. Here we go. Okay, so Martian Murray, it's a cool name, Martian Murray. Can a baritone extend their range, or should I stay comfortable in my range? That's a great question, Martian. Here's the thing with range, you are going to, I think one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that so many people become probably confused is the right word around range and around registers is because, well, firstly, it can be a bit of a confusing subject just all on its lonesome. But then we come into contact with a lot of misinformation online. One of those pieces of misinformation is driven by on one level, the understandable desire to not be restricted by our anatomy. And so you'll often come across people saying, look, if you want to be a tenor, then you just work until you're a tenor so that you can sing really high, because, you know, dear me, let it be forbidden that we should ever consider that being a baritone is more than acceptable. And so what people do is they really hammer and work their voice in a really heavy way, and it can really wear and tear at the voice, actually. And so this idea of vocal range being almost like a movable thing comes about from these ideas. The reality is we are born with a set DNA. Our DNA predetermines for us what the size of our larynx is going to be, what the shape of the length of our vocal tract is going to be, our ability to shape and manipulate and manage that, all of that is driven in part by our DNA. Now, that's the nature side of things. Is there a nurture aspect to it? Yes. And so what ends up happening is I'll get a new student come into the studio, and I do a vocal analysis. With students who step into the studio here in person, I do a full vocal analysis. It's not possible for me to do that with online students, but we'll have a look at vocal range. Now, your typical beginner singer vocal range is generally somewhere between 1.5 to 2 octaves. Then what we do in our first lesson is, by me asking and instructing the student on how to do a number of certain things, it often comes as a very pleasant surprise that we straight away, I went to say unlock. It's not that we unlock, it's just that we provide the singer with tools that enable them to access notes within the vocal range that they stepped into the studio before having ever met me. We unlock, we gain access to notes that were always there, but we never had the skills required, the tools technically to access them. Does that mean that we've just added let's say generally in that first lesson, I don't want to overestimate this. Within that first lesson, it's not unusual for us to add or gain access to 1.5 to 2 tones. I'm not talking necessarily here about falsetto or flute register. I'm just talking about your general lower and upper registers. And so, 3 to 4 steps. Did Dr. Dan just add 3 to 4 notes to that singer? Absolutely not. All I've done is helped the student facilitate their instrument in such a way that they were able to have access to the notes that were always there. And this is so important. It's so important that you understand this, because you can, if you take the alternate route of, just drive the voice really hard until you can sing really high, because I want to go from being a baritone to a tenor. I know that's not the essence of your question, Martian, but stay with me. Then we can really wear and tear at the voice when we do it that way. Whereas when we go about being able to facilitate the voice in such a way as we gain access to the full range anatomically, then it's safer, it's more sustainable over time, and we're able to learn to use that more appropriately than just going, I'm going to sing higher and higher and higher, to then realize that you can really wear and tear at the voice that way. So back to the question at hand, can a baritone extend their range, or should you stay comfortable within my range? If you're a baritone, you're always a baritone, will always be a baritone. Occasionally, what a singer can find when we build technique into the process, a singer can discover that they are in fact going to be able to access different colouring and also different weightings within the voice that may reclassify the voice. That is rare. That is not your typical outcome. When I'm workshopping any singer, the rule of thumb when we're developing range, so not extending, developing the range that is actually already there, when we're developing that using technical exercises, and you can use the Voice Essentials program to do this, and all those links are found below. When we facilitate the voice well, I'm always encouraging students to sing the scales. So if we're singing up, we would sing up to where it's comfortable, plus 1 or 2. So whenever giving the voice permission to just, sit on its laurels and be comfortable with what it's achieved, we're always seeking to explore beyond its comfortable boundary, but never to the point where we could create a vocal health issue, where we overextend and cause some wear and tear on the voice. So the rule of thumb, always sing up to where it's comfortable, the end of a range, plus 1 or 2 steps. And that is a really good way to go about practicing when working on your range. As far as being a baritone, we're in a habit of doing this as human beings. We always want what we don't have. Don't see a sense of being a baritone, and again, Martian, I don't want to make a suggestion that you're suggesting this, but I just want to speak to the wider community. A baritone is not a second-class citizen next to a tenor. They are not. And I've said this many times, and I'm just like the rest of us. We all want what we don't have. I've always, as a tenor, and you can hear it in my speaking voice, right? As a tenor, I've always desired those rich, chocolatey, darker timbre hues of a baritone that my anatomy really struggles to present. Baritones always want the really high notes that, in my case, I'm able to achieve with relative ease. You know, that's what baritones want. It's a matter of learning to really develop and workshop what you do have. By all means, workshop and exercise the weaker areas of your voice, but don't do that at the by ignoring or not really further developing and enhancing, taking full advantage of the strengths of what your anatomy does give you. So, Martian, I hope that is helpful to you, and very much hoping that you will be very comfortable with your baritone range, can play with the range, workshop it, exercise it. I'm not suggesting anything other than that, but certainly want to encourage you to work on that. And you have replied with, I will. I'm pleased. Martian is going to get all the questions today because there's not many people with us. Maybe this is me discovering that actually the draw card to the show is Linda. She welcomed me. She's amazing. Okay, let's dive in here. Let's come over to here. This is another good question here from Martian. Also, can someone scream without damaging their voice? I grew up in the grunge era, Kurt Cobain, Chris Cornell. Martian, can someone scream without damaging their voice? Yes, to the point of your question, yes, they can. We have to learn the skills, the techniques around that specific area or of voicing. What historically I've referred to as distorted voice, but our good friend of the channel, Melissa Cross, who is regarded as one of the, at least one of the top two educators in the area of scream vocals, distorted vocals. The last time we had her on the show, she was very quick to correct me in my use of language. She now uses the terminology, from memory, she referred to it as disturbed vocals, disturbed voice. Terminology aside, yes, when you are employing really good technique around the presentation of those kind of vocal qualities, yes, it can be done safely. Unfortunately, when most people go about trying to achieve these vocal outcomes all of their own device, often that leads to some significant vocal concerns, and that will lead to vocal damage. You know, the one where I'm spending a bit of time on this today with you, Martian. We're human. We don't like to think that we are. We like to think that our anatomy is infallible and that we can do whatever we like, and the younger you are, the more given to thinking that you are, you know, what's the right word? Bulletproof. Martian, you're getting into the age and the era now where, given that, you know, you grew up on the grunge era, back in the 90s, I would dare say you're up around the late 30s, early 40s, perhaps older. So you're getting to the age where you know you're not bulletproof. You know that your voice does have a budget, and that, you know, depending on the level of your technical skill, will have some determinant values around that vocal budget. But if you live and sing in a manner that always has you living that vocal budget in the red, constantly in credit, then you will go bankrupt vocally. It just will happen. Just like your personal finances. If you're constantly living in credit, that is not going to end well. You can't. You've got to be careful that you only spend what you're able to, draw in revenue-wise, and you live healthily in the black. The same goes with your voice. And so it's really important that the technique you develop is task specific. That if you want to sing these types of styles, the grunge era, or go into, the disturbed, the distorted vocal, the heavy metals, the screamo, the death, then you've got to actually be thinking about what skills am I going to need to acquire that are going to facilitate that. This is where, and I'm going to take a moment just to really drive this home, this is why it is it has been completely research-based, debunked, that to sing well, anything well, you must learn classical style. That we know that is not true. It cannot be peddled any longer. We know that your technique must be task specific. This is why you'll often see on my videos, I present myself as a contemporary singing voice specialist. Not a classical, not a music theatre, a contemporary singing voice specialist. I specialize in areas of pop, rock, country, indie folk, some lighter jazz. I'm not a hardcore jazz singer. And some forms of music theatre which are very much contemporary leaning. Think Chess, Rent, to a certain extent Wicked, JC Superstar, some of these rock-based musicals, because that's the kind of technique that I teach. So we've got to really be mindful of that. Don't buy into the idea, which is built in prejudice and bias, that says if you want to sing anything well, you've got to first learn classical technique. If you want to sing classical genres, Baroque, English art song, German lieder, by all means, learn classical technique, because that's what you're going to need. But if you want to sing these other genres that are away from classical, then go seeking the right technique to build the right foundation. Otherwise, you are almost certainly setting your voice up for some problems. So I hope that's helpful. Let's come up here. We've got some questions coming in, I think. Here's another one from Lennon. Lennon, hello Lennon. Nice to have you hanging out with us today. When warming up, is it better to begin at the bottom of the range or from the middle up? I am a baritenor. I think it's better, Lennon, to start off in the middle of the range. We've got to think of what is a warm-up all about. A warm-up is literally about activating musculature, activating the entire instrument. And so starting that warm-up in the middle of your range in comfortable notes, and then massaging the voice out across the range. I was saying to a student just last week, we're talking about vocal warm-ups. What's the best way to go about it? And really the best way to go about it is to slowly but surely, as we work blood flow into the musculature, slowly but surely feel that movement, stretch that movement out over the full range of motion. That's why we don't start with sirens. We always end a vocal warm-up with sirens, because the siren is going to take the voice out over its full range of motion. So you want to start in the middle. You can work down, work up, and so we just start to move the voice. Yeah? A good warm-up is not designed to have you necessarily be at 100% activation by the end of a warm-up. I would be aiming in a good warm-up, I would be aiming for around about 80 to 85% activation of the voice. So that means that, you know, the first few songs of a gig, you're going to be still working into it. You're not just going to go hell for leather in song one, unless, of course, the show that you are doing requires that, and then you have to cater to the warm-up in a slightly different manner. But generally speaking, you want to start probably in the middle of the range, and then you not just work it up, Lennon, but also work down. You know, you stretching, think of it as the whole muscle, full range of motion. Full range of motion. Let's say that's I'm making sure I'm still in shot here. Where am I? I'm looking at the reason I always get mixed up is because everything's opposite on the screen I'm looking at. So I'm going to bring that in there, right? So let's say that's your full range of motion. What ends up happening is everyone wants to work towards the high note, right? So let's say we're back here. Don't just work. Hopefully I'm going to get this right. Don't only work that way. Yeah? Work that way. I'm watching my... I feel so unco doing this. I was at my PT session this morning, and it's been a few weeks since I've been able to get to see my personal trainer. And he had me doing an exercise, and I was so unco, it wasn't funny. He had me hands crossed anyway. And this morning I didn't have the excuse of having looking at myself the opposite direction. So anyway, so work the voice, warm up the voice both directions, Lennon. And really, in many respects, your voice classification, you've noted here that you're a baritone. Your voice classification really shouldn't have too much of an impact on what you do or don't do in that regard. So I hope that's helpful to you. Lennon, let me look up here for another question. Oh, here we go. Let's go with this one. Zen Kenton. I think is that your name, Zen Kenton, or is that just your? I hope I'm saying it correctly. Hi, Dr. Dan and Kathy. I'm still unclear on the physiological mechanism behind twang. In twang, is an added phonation occurring in the false vocal folds, or is there something else? Great question, Zen Kenton. No, there is not. The false folds are not being activated in twang. So the twang is simply a resonance enhancement. What it's actually doing at a resonance level is it's causing an enhancement of between it's around about 3K, anywhere between 2.8 to 3.2 kilohertz. It gives a bump, so it's enhancing that area of the resonance, which is going to sit in the overtone series, which gives the voice more cut through. Now, I just have a little bit of a definition of twang that I've used for a couple of decades, and I refer to twang as a clear, focused resonance. And the reason I refer to it that is sort of to give my students a bit more of a handle on what it actually is. The term twang was really, in many respects, codified by Joe Estelle and she had she developed the Estelle method many years ago, right back into the 80s, I think it is. Was a highly regarded pedagogue from the UK, from memory. She was actually she was very much focused on classical singing, and a big benefit of the Estelle method was it gave it created some terminology that allowed speech pathologists and singing teachers to communicate. That was a real strength of that work. So twang is, as I said, a clear focused resonance. It is formed within the voice by the shaping of what's called the aryepiglottic sphincter. There's a muscle that sits around the edge of the epiglottis called the aryepiglottic sphincter or aryepiglottic fold, and it causes a narrowing of the space immediately above the vocal folds. Now, the false folds are not participating in this whatsoever. There's a number of benefits of twang. I mentioned the resonance enhancement, which gives it better cut through, which actually creates a better perception of volume. And in fact, Estelle's research suggested that someone singing with twang was going to get up to a 600%, not 600% more volume for no more effort. And the way it does that is it's the way, not only is it filtering the sound forward and enhancing, but it does so. And this is what I'm about to describe is my anecdotal observation. So I cannot back this up by research, though if I was to ever do a second doctorate, this might well be it. It kind of acts a bit like a turbocharger on an engine. Now, some of you are going, how does a turbocharger work on an engine? Essentially, a turbocharger is something that causes a higher level of exhaust drawing out of the exhaust from an engine block, which creates cleaner combustion space within a combustion engine. And so by drawing the dirty air, the combustion out of the engine, this is Daniel's very, very non-mechanics, explanation, it helps the engine run more efficiently and gives it more power. That's what a turbo does. And twang, I reckon twang works in a similar way. It seems to draw, because where twang works really well is it's reduced air pressure. You cannot have a lot of air pressure sitting up underneath twang or you'll constrict. And so when we reduce the air pressure, the phonatory threshold pressure, and we have an evenness of phonatory threshold flow, it's almost like that narrowing of the aryepiglottic sphincter, that shape, the laryngopharynx immediately above the vocal folds. It seems like the air is pulled out more effectively off the top of the oscillation of the vocal folds, creating a more efficient oscillation, and therefore that's why twang is just so handy to use. It's so efficient. I'm going to say it again just so there's no mistaking my theory, if you will. It would have to be fully researched to confirm that that's actually the case. But I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, and the more I've thought about twang and the way it works, the more I'm given to wondering, I reckon that's a part of it. And so your false folds, where you may get false fold activation is if you've got too much pressure. That may well be what gives you that false fold, but there should be none. There should be no false fold engagement. The other positive thing of twang is generally when we're practicing twang, we're generally doing it on an NG. So for example, Sing. And so the other positive thing about that is it's a semi-occlusion of the vocal tract. That in and of itself is a rather healthy production of sound. It's a very balanced phonatory point, and it's drawing the arytenoid cartilage together in a really balanced manner, which is allowing the vocal folds to kind of massage themselves a little. So really, there's a lot of positives. Around about, I reckon it was about 15 years ago, the singing teaching community kind of, you know, as it often does, it turned on twang as if it was like this nasty thing because it's always, you know, you're going to constrict. No, I think that the challenge there was the people who were teaching it, I think, found themselves still applying way too much pressure, which was causing the constriction. It wasn't the twang itself, it was the pressure overload, and that was where we were getting the constriction from. Too much pressure underneath a twang setting, yeah, you'll constrict. You've got to reduce the pressure, but therein lies the tremendous value of twang. Yes, it does give us a clear focused resonance, but more importantly, it creates efficiency in our singing. And if you are gigging, efficiency is premium. To be able to sing efficiently, that is everything. Yeah? Because if you're gigging, you probably already sound pretty good. Yeah? That's the reason you're being hired. But for you to be able to rock up and do it night in, night out, with a voice that isn't just slowly dying a slow death, efficiency is everything. And when I'm working with my professional students, that is a big part of our lessons. How do we make this more efficient? And that would be my encouragement to you. A big part of that efficiency is twang. We've only got time for one more question. Oh, I've got to tell you, when we started today's live hangout, I was a bit concerned. I was starting to think we might not have any questions, but we've got there. Linda will be doing the time codes for tomorrow's show. Hello, Linda. We've missed you. She'll be so pleased that that things actually did work out. Okay. Let me see if I can find another question. Looking up here. Oh, let's just go to. Oh, Nebish has a question. I'm looking for the question by Nebish. So I'm trying to get the right question from Nebish. Apologies, everyone, because I'm having to scroll through. So this is why we need Linda, isn't it? It is. But Kathy, I appreciate you and the work you've done today. Usually I'm helping older mum. I'm trying to make sure I don't read out the wrong questions. I'm going to run with this one as being the question. Nibishabukwaiji. Good eve. Usually I'm helping elder mum by face chat, but I made it. She is assistant. My name is Nibi. Hello, Nibi. I like clues for more resonance, clarity, baritone edge area up. Do you know what, Nibi? I would be really encouraging you to consider twang as your starting point. Exactly what we've just talked through. In the Voice Essentials program, we start working. This is how important it is. This is how important I consider twang for the development of contemporary vocal technique. We start working on twang from lesson 2. It's not lesson 1. Most of lesson 1 is spent on working on body alignment and vocal tract shape. From lesson 2, there are 35 lessons within the video-based online courses. session 2, we start working on twang. That's how important it is. And so my encouragement to you, Nibi, would be to check out the program, and that will really start to not only develop your resonance, but also, so you've used the terms there, resonance and clarity. That speaks to exactly the way I define twang. A clear clarity, focused. It's got that sense of zoning and focusing the voice, resonance. That's exactly what twang is. And so I hope you'll go and check that out. And yeah, it's been so good. You know, sometimes it's actually good for me to be to sort of jump over and have a watch of all the names. And I've just seen Kelly in the chat. Hello, Kelly. That is one of the activities, Kelly. Yes, for working on the twang, and so that's great. It's so good to see all of you, and it's been good to hang out with all of you. Next week we're going to come back, as I said, mini topic. We're going to talk to mini topic. I was going to have a quick chat about reaction videos today. We're not going to have time. We're out of time. Maybe we'll do that next week. The only comment I was going to make around the reaction videos was just to say thank you to all of you who have been jumping in and watching and supporting. It's such a different space to what I'm used to. And there are so many very, very, very passionate people about their particular artists, and sometimes it can be a lot. But I do thank you for the community, the Voice Essentials community support that's been shown on those recently. So next week, mini topic. Not going to tell you what it is. You have to tune in next week. Subscribe, hit the white bell icon. That way you get the notification. I'll give you a hint. It's going to be around the subject of something that we really need to be on top of consistently. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, I hope you all have a great week. Again, happy Thanksgiving to all of our Canadians. Thank you, Kathy. You're a champion for stepping in for Linda today. Big thank you to you. And I very much look forward to seeing all of you in a week's time. And I hope you have a safe and healthy week. I very much look forward to seeing you again in the next live hangout here at Voice Essentials. My name is Dr. Dan. Sing well.